A pleasant morning to all of you. For a few minutes today, I will be talking about a few teaching styles I had to let go because of the migration of classes from traditional classrooms to virtual spaces. So, so I will be using the first person pronoun I a lot, probably more than polite conversation allows, I think. But that is not self-centrism or omphaloskepsis. That is called sharing. For me, because I teach literature and language mostly, I want my classes to be lively and interactive, two things that are not easy to achieve in online discussions. Well, I had and have to let go of several things to be able to adapt well to remote learning. Several is an understatement actually, I may say, but for brevity, I will share 5 out of these several, all 5 of which have something to do with my personal teaching style, or preference, or method, or technique, or idiosyncrasy. No matter how much I try to discuss certain details in a literary text, or try to let students see different, sometimes even antithetical approaches to the text, the students can always ignore what I write in the forums, and I could not write long explanations either. Students will be repelled. They have unlimited ignore power-ups. This is when you post in the forums. No juicy hints will work, no pointers are interesting enough. If the students decide to use these unlimited ignore power-up buttons that are at their disposal at the moment. So let us try to look at the ways the dreamer in the story Circular Ruins by Jorge Luis Borges creates his perfect disciple. Notice the juxtaposition of the first dream and the Similarly, to make sure I am understood, inside the classroom, I try to speak in a language that everybody understands. But now, I cannot necessarily do that anymore. Salit pananglitan, kung nato rin istoryan paghatag hinlamrag nga barasahon, kinahanglan nato niya kita unti kang hausa nga panlantaw nga waray dinhi, waray didto, kundiri, ada dida. Kahuman ana, atong subayon ang dagan sa mga pulong, ug dungan ani, ato pud bantayan ang inut-inut nga pagdagay day sa mga hulagway nga mulabay sa atong mga panghuna-huna, sa mga pagbatig abing nimong muhapak sa imong aping. Sa mga hulugang mula sa aling punto de vista maaaring maging katanggap-tanggap ang isang mungkahing magsasabing ang dalawang nasabing nilalang ay magkapantay, kung ang isa, kahit na mababatid nga ang pagiging kawangis niya sa isa, ay wala namang dudang isang huwad. And so, where can we locate the ambivalence one can perceive from the text, especially in light of classic realism, mimesis, and verisimilitude? Y sin embargo, somos realmente libres. Podemos decir que somos fieles a nosotros mismos. Pero entonces, ¿por qué tratamos de imitar a los demás, poniendo en una persona diferente le monde magnifique? Cela a toujours été et sera toujours jusqu'à la fin des temps. Pourtant, il y a autant de monde que le nombre de personnes qui le perçoivent. Just let go. So I just let go of detailed explanations. This is particularly during recitation. Sometimes, students just pout things they don't necessarily understand just so they could say something during discussions. Or sometimes they read an explanation of a text somewhere else and present that information in class as if they came up with a interpretation themselves. Or maybe they heard it from somebody, especially a former student of mine in whose class I probably discussed the text in question. Or simply they could not come up with a reading of a text that is convincing enough, but they, however, are compelled to say something in class and so are forced to share their rather half-baked ideas. Or at other times, students simply say what is very obvious or the very literal reading of a text. So in all these circumstances, among many others, it is appropriate and fun to see if students can really stand behind whatever idea they presented in class.
So, this story, Wine, by Hayashi Mariko, tells of the narrator girl's endeavors to find a fitting person to whom she can give the wine, the French wine she bought in Quebec. A person who can rightly appreciate the value of the wine. For me, the deeper meaning of the story is that it shows how we, people, try to find the best person deserving of our gifts. Such a profound reading. We simply choose who deserves our gifts. People do that, and this story reveals this to us. I realized that when I was reading the story. I realized that I do that too. That I choose who must receive which gift.
Are you sure?
Of course.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I guess.
Are you sure? Sometimes students simply repeat words and lines they hear and apply these where they are not necessarily called for. They have their own reasons for doing so. Maybe some would just like to sound erudite. Others may simply like to repeat them because these are new to them. Still others may just want to repeat those words because they feel that they can never be wrong with those words. In short, the students may not necessarily understand what they're saying.
Oh, yeah. The poem, All Things Bright and Beautiful, yeah, it talks about bright and beautiful things. Yes, but the poem is about power struggle and the plight of the poor. It highlights the inequality of the classes, right? That's what it means in the line. All creatures, great and small, not everything is the same. Some are big, some are little. Inequality, class struggle. This world is not flat after all. So, not all is in the same level. All things bright and beautiful, yeah. Paradoxical, metaphorical, metaphysical, astronomical. Where again did you...
Spontaneity and interdependence in this context mostly refer to class discussions and even topics and readings. It is true that even before the pandemic, classes were supposedly already structured and planned even before the start of the semester. The syllabus has to be made after all. However, in the traditional classroom settings, even if the class is already organized before the semester starts, there is still room for topics not listed on the syllabus to spontaneously pop up and be discussed. Similarly, actual classroom discussions and actual classroom settings have a large say on where the class is headed, what readings to be exhausted, how long would the class dwell on a certain topic, or how a lesson would be taught to the students. So even if the big concerns are listed on the syllabus as if newspaper headlines, the daily lessons and techniques employed to achieve learning in those concerns may still be heavily reliant on how, for instance, students respond to the lessons meeting after class meeting. So this is where interdependence comes in. That is, topics and readings to be discussed next in class are dependent on the last topic and reading, or on how the class responded to the last topic and reading.
So that was American William Faulkner for you all, my dears, and the short fiction A Rose for Emily. Yes, mister. Yeah, my head is still reeling. I still like to dwell on the rose. Oh, my sweet, beloved rose. Oh, good for you. We have the poem A Red Red Rose by the Scotsman Robert Burns. Wow, so sweet. Rose and love. Classic. I I wonder though if the rose can also be used as a metaphor for something else other than love. Then let us find out. Let us read a poem in which she morally censures a rose, and through the rose her peers, by Mexican Sor Juana Inez. Hey mister, that was cool, but it was a bit too heavy on the heart. Can we have something a little bit lighter? Maybe something fun, but all the while still a rose? Well, in that case, let us have the poem by American poetess Dorothy Parker titled One Perfect Rose.
So those are 5 of the things I have to let go now that classes are done online. Those 5 are mostly about my own personal teaching style. But of course, there were other things I also have to let go. For example,
Letting go of myself. Growing from waist 27 to waist 28. Tragic.
but kidding aside, yes, there are times that we just have to let go of things, especially those we don't really have control over. Just let them go. It's the best thing we can do for ourselves. Just like what I would tell people, be kind to yourself. We don't have to stress too much over some things, over a lot of things. And one way of ridding ourselves of stress, of being kind to ourselves, is to let go of things, especially those that are worth letting go of, especially in this time of pandemic. The virus is already something very distressing. We don't have to add more to that stress by holding on to some of our ideals in teaching and learning that may be applicable in real-world literal classrooms but may no longer be apt in the virtual learning environments. We have a choice. Shall we stress ourselves or shall we stress other people instead? We have a choice. Ayan, pamain mga sisi. Sisi ito, stress tabs ito. Mga tabletas ng pildura sa magbibigay sa inyo ng stress. Sa mga guru dyan, bagay ito sa inyo. Mayroon tayo ditong stress tabs na good for 1 week worth of stress. Pero pwede rin naman itong mga pang araw-araw na pag-inom. Kung gusto ninyo, may mga super stress tabs tayo dito. Talagang pang buong semestre na talaga. Pamay na lang. Mayroon din naman tayo dito mga pakunti-kunting stress effects lang. Kasi itong mga stress tabs na ito, pang general effect yan. Isang inom lang na ganyan, ramdam mo na lahat. Kawalan ng gana sa pagkain, kakulangan sa tulog, pagkabugnutin, etc. etc. Lahat andyan na. Pero meron tayo dito, kung gusto nyo lang subukan muna ng pakunti-kunti, meron tayo dito ibang mga stress merchandise. Halimbawa, meron tayo dito stress face. Isang inom lang na ganyan, haggard face ka kaagad. Mayroon din naman tayong stress heart. Isang inom lang, palpitation ka agad. O kaya yung isa dito, stress skin yan. Isang inom lang na ganyan, skin lesions ka agad, humahataw pa. O ano na mga sis, may na kayo dyan. May discount pa pag bulk orders. Open to resellers din ito ha, kasi halimbawa, para sa mga teachers dyan, pwede na rin kayong makapagkalat ng stress sa lahat ng inyong mga kasamahan sa buong paaralan. Kaya pamay na mga sis. So would you buy or not? Would you stress yourself or not? These are questions I ask myself, and I know I have a choice. We all do. You may decide to be poised and calm, or you may decide to be stressed. When you prefer being stressed, you can stay in at least 2 general places, and these places can actually converge into one. The first place is called melancholia.
On your I like the ivy and the pink blue.
The other one is Angeria. We have a choice. When we let go and distance ourselves from stressors, we can finally be free. We can finally achieve greater heights.
We can finally reach for the stars and the moon we can finally be true to ourselves and show who we truly are. Yamar prestarai hanmatuninen hanmatunihay bakanustunet William.